Morgan Freeman, when he said it towards the end, was kind of the most impactful. And he said either you have to get ready to get after living or get after dying. And I decided to get after living.
You are a light, and let everyone see that light inside of you, and never forget how amazing and awesome you are.
My name is Ken Middleton. I'm from Leesburg, Virginia, about 30 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. My dad is quintessentially my hero. He's amazing. He's got a work ethic that is second to none. His father passed away when he was like either 7 or 8 years old. I was taught to do everything from working on a car to taking care of landscaping stuff. I was cutting like 10, 11 lawns by the time I was 12 years old. It led me ultimately to become an entrepreneur. I was probably what most people considered fairly successful. I had a couple stumbling blocks along the way, but I've learned much more from my failures than I ever did from my successes. Went through a pretty good process up until around 35, 36. I was bought out of my company I had built at that point. I did like a merger buyout combination. The quick version of the story is a former employee had went to work for a new company to the United States. It was a partnership between the third largest tile producer in the world, Imola, and they were trying to push large format tile. Large format tile was like 12 by 24 then, or larger, which is still big and commercial, but it hadn't really hit the States yet. I made one negotiating point that I wanted to be the #1 reference on their referral list. That did really well until they realized I was making more profit than they were. Then he came to me one day, he's like, Ken, I want to be in the remodeling business. He made me an offer I couldn't refuse. Me being an entrepreneur my whole life and me being my own boss for, at that point, close to 20 years, it was a little difficult. I ran into a couple personality conflicts from time to time. But what I didn't realize, and this was me being the small fish swimming with really big fish. When I say the third largest tile producer in the world, that's like, they do like billions of dollars a year in revenue. But what ended up happening, to make a long story a little bit shorter, is when the company was not going to stay alive anymore, which I was unaware of, they all the accounts I had were not going to get paid. And I had personally guaranteed all those accounts when I was a baby contractor because I didn't have the assets or the revenue stream or the 2 years of taxables. These people were my friends. I knew the name of my kids, I knew the name of their kids, all that kind of stuff. So I showed up to work and parked, and I was kind of a little weird as no other cars were really there. And we were a subset of a very large building. And I went up to the front doors and they were chained shut. At that time in my life, I had my son. My daughter was on her way. I lived in a 6,000 square foot house. My wife had a really nice BMW. I had a really nice F-150. We didn't really want for much. Vacations, I love to eat. I ate whatever I wanted whenever I wanted it. Crabs was a big part of my diet. The other issue was alcohol. And I had not gone through any real, looking back, major failures to that point. I didn't know how to handle what was happening to me at all. So it was a couple of drinks when I got home or some beers turned into, I had this unbelievable pain. I can feel the failure just looming over top of me. All these things I thought were really important weren't gonna fill the cross-shaped hole in my heart. All those things I thought were like a proof of success. You know, how much I didn't appreciate all the stuff God had given me. He'd given me a loving wife, a kid that got the same name as me. My dad named me after him. I named my son after myself. A daughter that was on the way. She's 9 now and absolutely gorgeous. She's my purple petunia princess. And none of that, I spent too much time upset about what I didn't have instead of appreciating all the great things God had given me. You think you're the same guy, that person that was knocking out of the park yesterday in front of boardrooms with the smartest people in the world in DC, then the next day you just driving down the road and missed your exit, and it's not because you just were in deep thought, it's just because you didn't know. And it's one thing when it happens once every so often, like, yeah, but it's another thing when it's happening like multiple times a week. My son, who at that point realized that I had a drinking problem but didn't really categorize it or know the effect of what was going on. My daughter had no clue. She still doesn't have a clue. She'll probably see this one day and know what happened. It's just Daddy had a problem with his stomach. And none of the doctors could figure out why my blood work was still so great. I got one answer, it's God. That's it. It's the only reason I'm sitting here today. By every other doctor I've talked to, I should have been gone a long time ago. And I'm not. I think I know what he's got in store for me now, which has been a revelation the last probably week. And that'll be part 2 of this sometime down the road. But I have decided to get my master's, which just kind of coincided with my first day of coming to treatment at Honey Lake, in healthcare management. Because there's lots of areas I think that could use an outsider's perspective that's actually been through the system. And it's amazing. I had a couple classes to finish up from before and then decided on my concentration moving forward, and I'm excited.